Hello and welcome back to Alice Talks Football and welcome back to another live Manchester United news, transfer news and general update chit-chat show where we're talking about a few opinions going on at what I'm going to call Manchester United FC. We're not in Manchester, we're in Manchester because this whole international break, I don't think I've really spoke about anything particularly nice other than, the Glazers are probably under pressure and all the negativity means that the Glazers have more reason to sell. I mean, that is the positive, that everything is so awful that actually the Glazers probably can't stay because they're not going to make much money out of staying and there's a lot of pressure on the Glazers. I mean, that is the only positive about being at United at the moment. And reports are coming out today from Chris Wheeler that United are prepared to let Sancho go on loan with an obligation to buy for 50 million to Saudi Arabia, and that Ten Hag has reportedly approved a 50 million sale for Jadon Sancho. However, that move will not happen. So although Ten Hag reportedly and Man United reportedly have approved a 50 million deal for Sancho, the report that he will go to Saudi won't happen because no one wants to spend 50 million on Sancho is the situation. But I'm not surprised that the post still's pinned to Snapchat. The statement that Sancho put out is still pinned to his Twitter. It doesn't look very good. Ten Hag is obviously approved him to go. Man United are open to selling him, and I just think this club is an absolute mess. I do want to talk about Jadon Sancho because I think there has been some personal attacks on him that I don't agree with. I think you can criticise Sancho's performances. I think you can criticise Sancho's level of training, but one thing you can't do is criticise a player's character. So what if Sancho's shy? So what if Sancho isn't as extroverted as certain other players? I think there's been a complete and utter attack on Sancho's character today, which wouldn't have happened if he didn't put that statement out. You know, trying to attack Sancho. Sancho wouldn't have made it as a top-level professional footballer if he was as bad as the media are trying to make out. Yes, he's obviously not been training well under ERIK Ten Hag, and yes, he's put out a statement, and I don't agree with that, but he's been unfairly attacked. But before I get into the Sancho news, before I get into some of the other news coming out, there's more coming out on Antony today. You just think if we couldn't get any more messier, Manchester United, and now another report coming out on Antony, and apparently things Antony did before Man United brought him. Apparently Antony was under investigation before we brought him. All of this stuff going out. I want to talk about the Glazers because the only good thing about this toxicity is it means bye-bye for the Glazers. And, well, there was a story that came out today, and you think if it couldn't get messier at United, now listen to this, guys, you didn't think it could get any messier at United. Well, there was a story that came out today that United invited a paedophile to be a special guest. You think this club can't get any messier. The situation at this club can't get any worse. No, you're wrong. Manchester United invited a paedophile to be a special guest. And that is being leaked. And Phil Brown, who's very good on Twitter, suggested that this is very likely to be leaked by someone very high up at United, very high up on the board. Because why is all of a sudden stories that are a year old, 2 years old, being leaked to the press? Man United invited a paedophile over. I don't know why I'm laughing saying that. You know when this club's such a mess. When I'm actually reading out stories about us, I'm just laughing. Like I see the story come out today that we've invited a pedo to Old Trafford to be like a guest of honour, and I can't lie, I shouldn't be laughing, but I'm just laughing. Like this is my club. I'm just laughing at it. That sounds awful, but yeah, Man United invited a pedo. I don't know why, it's not funny. But it's just so messy, it's funny. We basically invited him over a year ago to Old Trafford to be a guest of honour. But it's only being leaked now. It wasn't leaked a year ago when we did it. It's only being leaked now. And and Phil Brown suggests this because those on the United board and those very high up at United aren't happy with the Glazers. The Glazers have absolutely annoyed some staff members at United, absolutely wound them up. The whole Greenwood plan was leaked. Other things have been leaked at the moment on the Glazers. Staff at Man United were handing out banners and handing out anti-Glazer flyers. Staff at United. The Glazers have lost all their employees. Even the most higher up employees at United are now leaking things that is going to cause damage to the club, going to cause damage to the club's reputation, because those at the very top are turning on the Glazers. Those at the very top of the club are getting annoyed with the Glazers. Because why didn't it come out a year ago when we invited the pedo to Old Trafford that we'd invited him to Old Trafford? Because they just covered it up. But now that there's staff and board members and people very high up at United that are definitely annoyed with the Glazers, how they've handled the takeover, how they handled the agreement situation, how everything's going on, things are getting leaked from people at the top of United. And when the Glazers are losing the trust of those at the top, and they never had the trust of those at the bottom, and they've never had the trust of the fans, this is the beginning of the end for the Glazers. And I will get into that in more detail in just a second, but I do want to get into sort of what Phil Brown said, because I think he made some interesting points. This is the story that's come out, by the way, if you weren't sure. Basically, Manchester United basically brought in a pedo to be, the special guest, because, look at our club, that's classic United. And Phil Brown said this: interesting that this story is just coming out now, despite the fact it's a year old. If I didn't know any better, I'd say someone at a very high level at United is severely annoyed and deliberately leaking these like they did with Greenwood. It seems that things are getting leaked left, right and centre. And this isn't even to do with the Sancho situation. These are leaks that actually is going to damage United's brand, reputation, United's name. And I think that, those at the club are really seeming to turn on the Glazers. Everyone's annoyed with the Glazers. Everyone's bound up with the Glazers. They've left Ten Hag out to dry, and we're going to get into the Sancho situation in a second. But it's a very toxic environment at the moment. And the only good thing about Manchester United, this big mess at United, is the Glazers know they have to go. The Glazers know they have to go. Unless someone is stupid enough to give them the money to stay, they know they have to go. No one wants them here. Even those at the top are getting annoyed with them. Everything surrounding the Glazer family and what they do is negative. They put out a story that they might stay, the stocks go down by 600 million. Well, if they do stay, the value of United's going to go down massively, that it will take ages for them to recover. And actually, their reasoning for staying is because they think the club could be worth more in 2 to 3 years, but it probably won't when you look at the way the stocks react. The Glazers have been going on and on and on. And it's, the thing is, the mismanagement of this club, they don't have much longer as well. I want to show you guys something quickly before I get into the next story. I want to show you guys a post I saw as well. But I saw a post from Stretford Post here, and then I'm going to get into the next story. Then I'll get into the chat. But the time is up for the Glazers. And Stretford posted this, and I thought this was interesting. He said, Old Trafford is in dire need of extensive upgrades, as evident by the persistent issues as leaking toilets and roof. The stadium's infrastructure, academy, and gym facilities have remained unchanged for decades, necessitating a comprehensive overhaul. That's too intelligent for me to read. Our club has unfortunately become a synonymous with financial institutions rather than football heritage, primarily to the Glazers' ownership as well. He said it's disheartening, but also not surprising that the minimalistic brains of rival fans focus solely on players' transfer funds by the club itself rather than the Glazers' personal wealth. And I think he's absolutely spot on. The Glazers are ruining everything with this club, and you get idiots saying, "Oh, the Glazers aren't bad owners. The Glazers aren't bad owners. They they spent this amount of money. They spent that amount of money. The Glazers aren't bad owners." And it's like, just because the Glazers spent this and that amount of money doesn't make them good owners. Look where they've spent the money. Look at the lack of investment. Look at the state of Old Trafford. Look at everything going on at United. Everyone keeps breaking down that, oh, United have spent this, this, and this, but there's more to it. And what he essentially posted was this. This is what the Glazers have spent. And this is what I wanted to bring up to you quickly before I get into the news story. I don't know how big that is. Can I make that bigger? Can I make the screen bigger? No, that makes it smaller. Can you read that? Is that clear? Just tell me if you can read that. But essentially, this is a breakdown of 1.13 billion that the Glazers have spent. The Glazers have spent £743 million that Man United have generated in paying off interest. The Glazers have spent 147 million that United have generated in debt repayments, 166 million in dividends, 55 million in directors, blah, 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 which is people like Woodward, and 23 million in the management fee. The Glazers have also personally pocketed around 465 million through numerous sales of shares over that period. In the period of 2010 to 2021, United's interest payments of 570 million were almost as much as the rest of the Premier League combined. Just to break that down for you, the Glazers have spent 1.13 billion. On top of that, they've also paid themselves 465 million through selling the shares of Manchester United. So essentially, this is a breakdown of what the Glazers have done and where the Glazers spend all their money. Because I've seen a few naive people on the internet at the moment going, oh, why do people always complain about the Glazers? Why do people always complain about the Glazers? They spent this amount of money. United fans are so stupid. And it's like, no, it's not that the Glazers have spent 1.4 billion on transfers. It's the fact that Man United could spend way more money and they don't. You know, look at all the money that gets spent on things like debt repayment. It's multiple things, you know, and look at where the money's spent. Look at the stadium. And, you know, I just thought that was a good post that I wanted to show you. And I wanted to show you one more thing before I get into the Sancho story as well, because this is Manchester United at the moment as well. This is the last month. This is what the Glazers have done the last month at this club, yeah? We needed a loan to acquire a player worth 20 million in Amrabat. We waited till the last minute to acquire players, leaving Ten Hag short, just like at the start of last season. We handled the Mason Greenwood situation with carelessness and incompetence. We should have got players Ten Hag needed, so situations like Jadon Sancho wouldn't have become existent and he would have been sold. If we fully backed Ten Hag, Sancho would have been sold and would have brought a right winger in. We chased Kim Min-jae for 1 year to end up with Johnny Evans. We could not sell Maguire or have the funds to get rid of him, so basically succumbed to player power, which again, negative for the dressing room. Sold a certain players for a fraction of what they'd be worth because we have such poor negotiators and show our hand during the transfer process. We got €1 million for Sedan Iqbal, and you see that, you know, Man City getting £45 million for Cole Palmer. It's an absolute joke. We turned United's start of the season into a soap opera. The Glazers literally turned the start of our season into a soap opera. And, you know, the toxicity gets so bad that fans have already begun to turn on Ten Hag and turn against the manager. And you know what? The job is only 25% done. There's so many problems. There's so many problems from last season that they didn't fix. Fans will be turning on Ten Hag. People will be getting annoyed at Ten Hag. But if you actually look at everything, the incompetence shown in the transfer window, you know, not getting Ten Hag's targets in and out, not getting Kim Min-jae and not getting Maguire out, not getting Sancho out, not getting this player and not getting Amrabat on time has cost us points. The incompetence in the transfer window has left Ten Hag particularly short going to the Emirates with Johnny Evans, which has now created negativity in the fan base because people are turning on the likes of Ten Hag. You know, people aren't happy with the club just because of how they've handled the Greenwood situation. Among many situations, we've got this new Antony situation coming out as well. And, you know, we've got player power. We can't sell anyone. We can't buy anyone. And it's all in one transfer window that all of these things seem to happen. And the club is an absolute mess as well. And we've been in this mess so many times. It's the 2-year cycle of the Glazers. And it just shows that, you know, they need to go more than ever. And I think the only good thing about all this negativity at Manchester United is this is the 2-year cycle of the Glazers. This is what happens. And for me, the more negative it gets, the more and more likely the Glazers are going to have to sell the club. So I thought I would share that post to be quite clear as well. Guys, please do smash that like button and, of course, subscribe down below to Alice Talks Football if you're new. If you do want to stay up to date with all the latest Manchester United news, transfer news, updates and more, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I do go live every single evening talking about all the latest United news. We're going to talk about the Glazers, why I believe it is the end of the Glazers and time is up for the Glazers. Is Sancho leaving? No. I'm going to get right into the Sancho story. So essentially what's come out is basically that Man United and Ten Hag approved a 50 million sale of Sancho to Saudi Arabia, but Saudi Arabia won't pay 50 million for Jadon Sancho. So Jadon Sancho won't leave United because Saudi Arabia won't give United what they want. But what worries me is the fact that, you know, Man United even approved the sale of Jadon Sancho. The fact that that seems to have been approved, allegedly, according to reports, Man United are open to the sale of Jadon Sancho. Now, obviously, you have to take every report with a pinch of salt, but it is just very negative at the moment as well. Paul says, I'm so sorry to Ten Hag out, people. Give him a contract extension so everyone knows who's boss, and that'll be it, says Paul. And you know what? I agree. You know, people are saying Ten Hag out, Ten Hag out. Look at this list on your screen and tell me why you'd be Ten Hag out over, rather than realising that this is just the 2-year cycle of the Glazers and whatever manager we have, whether it be Pep Guardiola, this cycle will continue. I'm not interested in Ten Hag out this. I'm not interested in Ten Hag out that. Because I know what the Glazers do. I know the cycle of the Glazer family. And for me, they need to go. You know, we've been an embarrassment of a club lately, inviting paedophiles to Old Trafford, having more statements than wins this season. This whole situation with Sancho is out of control because at the end of the day, you know, I'm not here to invite any hate on Sancho, but that statement is still pinned to Sancho's profile. How have we not nipped that in the bud already? That Sancho Ten Hag situation is looming on, which means it's looming on the mind of the players. It means it's looming in the dressing room. It means it's going to have a negative effect on everyone in the squad. You know, Sancho's still going bold with his statement, calling out the manager publicly on social media. The club is a complete and utter mess as well. The guy says, Alice, do you think the vile vermin will be gone by November? I do. But the fact that we're in September, I'm almost like, will they? Because if you'd asked me that in June, I would say yes. But the closer and closer we get to November, I'm thinking, oh, what's that? Now, from what I heard back in June, and what has been reported by other people, was that the Glazers would be gone in sort of in November time. It would take a year, but the plan was to kind of really hash it out in November time. What we know from Mike Keegan, a very respectful journalist in regards to the Glazers, is Mike Keegan did come out and confirm that essentially the Glazers, were back in talks with the Qataris and back in talks with Sir Jim. There was obviously the big report that came out last week that the Glazers were staying, the Glazers weren't going to sell the club. All of that stuff came out last week, and then the share price went down 600 million. And all of a sudden, Mike Keegan and Lawton of the Times, who obviously have connections to Sir Jim and Qatar, had actually got news that Sir Jim and Qatar were in negotiations. And Mike Keegan's exact words were that they're in negotiations to try and bridge the gap. I think the fact that the Glazers have recently opened talks again and gone back into negotiations with Qatar and Sir Jim Ratcliffe to try and bridge the gap in negotiations, for me, is an indication that the sale is slowly moving again. They've left Qatar and Sir Jim Ratcliffe in the dark for a very long time in regards to the Man United sale. And then all of a sudden, it seems to be talks going on now to bridge a gap. I think the Glazers know that time is up. They need to sell the club. And I think, all these games, all these last minute stories that they might stay, I think was all a negotiation tactic. But I think all the mess going on at Manchester United, the Antony situation, the Sancho situation, the fact that we've lost 2 of the opening 4 games, the fact that fans are turning, the fact that the stocks have dropped so much has just weakened the Glazers' stance. The Glazers are trying to negotiate a better deal with Qatar. The United Mappeteer said it, every reliable source said it, every person that actually gets genuine info said essentially the Glazers want to sell the club, but they want more money for the club. And this is what this whole delay has been about regarding the takeover. The Glazers are in a position where they realize they can't really negotiate for more money because the negotiating power isn't very strong. And they are back in talks with the Qataris and Sir Jim to try and bridge a gap. The fact that it's no longer Sir Jim and the Qataris in completely being ignored is now that they seem to be sort of working on bridging a gap, says to me that there is definitely potential for something to be done by November. I'm not going to say something will be done by November. It's the Glazers. We were told that it was going to be, we were told this takeover would be done in March. In March, we were told it would be done in April. In April, we were told it would be done by the end of the season. In June, we were told it would be done after the FA Cup final. In end of June, we were told it'd be done in July, and then we were told it'd be done by the end of the transfer window, and now we're being told it'd be done in October, November. Just because there are reports coming out from Neil Custis of The Sun and decent journalists that it should be done in October, November doesn't mean it'll be done. I do think it should probably be done in November because I think the Glazers are in a position where they might have to realise that they can't stay at the club much longer. I have a small feeling that maybe we could get some progress by November time. That's how long it took sort of Newcastle to do it. But you just don't know with these Glazers. They're doing everything they can to get more money, but they also know that they can't stay and everything is so negative. And I think, the fact that people inside the club, that board members are reportedly turning on the Glazers, leaks are coming out about how the Glazers invited a paedophile over, everything that's coming out is negative. And the only good thing about being Manchester United at the moment, and the only good thing about being negative United at the moment, is all these stories come out and they ruin the brand's reputation. They're so negative that it means the Glazers can't make as much money. And again, maybe that could push the Glazers to leave all the negativity around United. Because if Ten Hag was going to win the Premier League or Champions League this season, there's a lot less chance that we'd be able to get people like the Glazers out as well. Antony news, what's happening? Well, we will get into the Antony story and we will get into the Sancho story as well. Alice, will Ten Hag be sacked? I doubt it. I hope he isn't, because I think even if you sack Ten Hag, we'll still have the same problems because we'll still be stuck in this same cycle. But let's get into the next story, people. Let's quickly cover the Antony story, and then I want to get into the Sancho news. But I want to quickly just get this Antony story out of the way because, honestly, I just can't be bothered with it. I can't be bothered with all this negativity around the club. But what was said on Antony? So, well, I'm trying to put the Antony story in. Why can't I? I'm trying to put the Antony story in, but it's just trying to take me to Women's Aid. Just putting in the story. There we go. Anyway, it was said this. Gabriella's case against Antony isn't the first accusation made against him. So this has come out today. So great. Before we even signed Antony, there was accusations. Absolutely brilliant. Not only do we not do our research and we bring a pedo to Old Trafford, Antony also had allegations on him before we signed him. Brilliant. Anyway, Gabriella's case wasn't the first accusation. So a police report from May 2022 was made by Raisa de Freitas, also describing violent behavior from Antony. So someone had described that Antony had been very violent towards her before Antony's ex, and the victim had claimed that Antony has physically assaulted her and a woman in a car in Sao Paulo. She was admitted to hospital with bodily injuries and had exams taken by the police. So again, I am going to take this story coming out of Brazil with a pinch of salt, because there's not much credibility to it. I don't know what Brazilian journalists are like, and I think it's not fair to just read this story and assume that everything you read is true. With regards to the Antony situation, I think it will be, like they're trying to break down Sancho's character. Stories are literally coming out saying that, Jadon Sancho's shy and he's negative. And it's like, we can criticize Sancho's effort and we can criticize Sancho's performances. But one thing we can't do is criticize Sancho's character. Who cares if Sancho's shy? Who cares if Sancho's awkward? I don't know why that's coming out. But obviously a lot of negative stuff is coming out in regards to Antony. Now, if this story is true, then that is not good one bit. And United should have been aware of that before signing it. And more is coming out on Antony. And again, I'd say just because of the situation with Antony, it's not looking good. But we don't know the full story. But more is coming out on Antony about other things he's done from other people. And I can't lie, it's not looking good for Antony. It's not, I'm not aware of the sources, but you'd have to be pretty messed up to lie about something like this. I'm not aware of the sources, but it's getting more and more negative surrounding Antony and his future. And this is when we're in big trouble, because I've missed the super chat. I do apologize. I'll quickly get into the super chat in a second as well. But this is when we're in big trouble, because not only is it getting bad surrounding Sancho, but it's also getting bad surrounding Antony. I've got a super chat from Nick Collins here. Big up Nick Collins. He said it's understood that Sancho will work and talk with the United coaching staff during the international break, with all parties committed to getting him back to his best. Sky Sports News, says Nick Collins. Has that just come out now, Nick? Because that is a bit of positive news that we need, because there's actually some not very nice news coming out on Sancho today. So hopefully that is the case, because from what I'm reading, this Antony situation seems to be getting worse and worse. There seems to be more and more negative news coming out on Antony. So I really do hope that is the case, that Jadon Sancho is looking to make up with Ten Hag, and they're going to have talks and they're going to hash it out, and it's all going to be good. I really hope that is the case, because I do like Jadon Sancho. I don't like how he's been attacked by the media, but also I don't like how the statement is pinned to his bio. I think I love Sancho. He shouldn't have put that statement out. And the fact that the statement is pinned to his bio, he's still going strong with that statement. He still believes in that statement. And hopefully it's something that can be nipped in the bud by Ten Hag with a little bit of disciplinary action. And hopefully it doesn't go too far. Some reports from Chris Wheeler are stating that Sancho wants to leave United and go to Saudi Arabia. But from what I believe, that isn't true. I'm going to get into the Sancho news for you guys, because obviously there are reports that Ten Hag is open to selling him for £50 million. But hopefully this Sky Sports report that Nick has put up is true, because I really want a bit of positivity in this story and them to make up. But I want to get into the Sancho news, but I've been told something different on Sancho to what's come out from Chris Wheeler. So let me get up what Chris Wheeler said. So this is what I think. This is lies. Okay, I think this story is lies. Okay, but I want to get this up here. I think this is lies, and again, I think this is all a lie. So Chris Wheeler said that Sancho's expressed an interest in joining Saudi Arabia. Now, I've been told some stuff on Sancho, and I don't think Sancho will go to Saudi Arabia, and I don't think Sancho is the slightest bit interested in going to Saudi Arabia. I really don't. From what I've heard about Sancho and rumours, I don't think he'll be going to Saudi Arabia. Okay, I think that this story is a lie. I do. There are reports coming out that Sancho's interested in going to Saudi Arabia. He would want to leave United to go to Saudi Arabia on loan. I've heard other stories. I don't think this is true. So I know Chris Wheeler's a decent journalist, but again, I think that Chris Wheeler's been briefed this by people at United that want to paint a negative picture around Sancho. My stance on the Sancho situation is very clear. I'm with Ten Hag. If Ten Hag believes Sancho hasn't been training hard enough, then Sancho needs to train harder, not put a statement out on Instagram, and do what Wan-Bissaka did and fight his way back into the team. But the one thing I do not stand with is this media attack on Jadon Sancho, saying, oh, he's bad in pre-season, oh, he's moody, oh, he's shy. It doesn't matter. That's who Sancho is. And, I think some people higher up at United are putting out briefs to the media to put out, because these stories wouldn't have been put out if it wasn't for the Sancho statement, which is obviously creating negativity and getting fans to turn on Sancho. So I think Chris Wheeler has been told by someone, one of his sources, who's completely made it up, that Sancho is interested in joining a Saudi Arabian team, because I've heard a completely different side of the story, that Sancho will not go to Saudi Arabia and he's not interested in going to Saudi Arabia. Sancho wants out of United. There's no doubt in my mind Sancho wants out of United. I'm not saying that, but Sancho won't go to Saudi Arabia. He won't. He's not interested. He wouldn't. That's what I've been told. He wants to go back to Dortmund. He wants a Premier League club. Sancho wants out of United, yeah, but not to Saudi Arabia. I don't think he's interested in joining Saudi Arabia at all. And I think the fact that Sancho has put this statement out just after the transfer window closes, he knows that he's not going to be able to get out of United till January anyway. So I think he's going to put that statement out and hopefully have the ambition of making up the 10R because he realizes he's not going to pay till January. So I actually don't believe the story coming out that Sancho wants to leave. I think, again, that's United putting that out to try and create some negativity around Sancho. Yas said Sancho should learn from Wan-Bissaka, fight hard for his spot and prove the manager wrong instead of going on social media. I absolutely agree. For me, I think Sancho, is not a big problem at United. I think Sancho by the media is now being made out to be this big dressing room problem. And I will say this with Sancho. There was no reports about Sancho being bad in the dressing room before that statement came out. I think all the reports that are coming out about Sancho being negative, Sancho wanting to go to Saudi Arabia, Sancho being a problem in the dressing room, I think that is all false reports coming out to attack Sancho. I think I think all that's happened between Ten Hag and Sancho is that Ten Hag's dropped Sancho because Sancho's not trained to his standards. Sancho's unhappy with that. He thinks he's trained to his standards. Sancho sees that Antony plays every week, got some frustration, put it on social media, and is stuck with that as well. That's what I think was happened with Sancho and Ten Hag. And I think Sancho is sticking with his opinion that he should be playing over Antony, which is not what he should be doing. You shouldn't be questioning the manager like that. But I don't think that Sancho's sitting there going, I want to go to Saudi Arabia, screw Ten Hag. And I don't believe the stories that the teammates have turned on Sancho. I don't believe any of that. I think it's an attack on Sancho by the media. Anime says we've got 870 viewers, but only 179 likes, guys. What are you doing? So I want to get into the full Sancho story, but from what I've been told on Sancho, this story by Chris Wheeler is absolute BS as well. Alex B says, considering we can't replace Sancho, ideally Erik ten Hag and Jadon Sancho agreed to keep it cordial until January and then reevaluate at the time. Yeah, hopefully that is the case. Just trying to think positively. Please, Jesus Ahmad sharing the right wing does sound exciting, and players are gradually getting fitter. Also have a nice set of games coming up. Yeah, Maino is set to be back from injury. Højlund is obviously on the way back as well. I might do a video talking about how good Højlund has been, but I want to get into this report on Jadon Sancho that by Chris Wheeler, which essentially is saying that United approved a 50 million sale of Jadon Sancho, but the Saudis don't have 50 million. From what I've heard, Sancho's not interested in going to Saudi Arabia, though, so I would ignore that one. But it is said here that Manchester United were only prepared to let Jadon Sancho join on loan with an obligation to buy for 50 million. The Saudi club could not agree the fee, so the deal is dead. The Saudi club could not afford the fee. I mean, that is the biggest load of waffle ever. The Saudi club could not afford the fee. No, the Saudi club know it's Man United, and that when you're buying someone from Man United, you can get them for 10 times cheaper than anywhere else. If anyone could afford the fee, it's the bloody Saudi clubs. I mean, they're spending ridiculous money. They wanted to give Mbappe 700 million a year. Don't give me Saudi clubs can't afford Jadon Sancho nonsense. But anyway, essentially, this doesn't surprise me, and this is from what I believe is true. The feeling that Sancho wanted to go to Saudi Arabia, that report, from what I'm told, is not true. From what I know, is not true. But this part of the story is true, apparently. Is that Manchester United were only prepared to let Jadon Sancho go on loan with an obligation to buy. Man United essentially had a conversation today and said, we're open to letting Sancho go for 50 million. Ten Hag, Man United, approved a 50 million sale of Jadon Sancho today. Now, that is not good. That is not good one bit. Because if the Man United board and Ten Hag were approving a 50 million sale with Jadon Sancho, well, it's obvious that Ten Hag and Sancho have not made up. It's obvious that Sancho and Ten Hag don't look like making up. And it's obvious that this situation is getting messier. It's a complete mess. If Jadon Sancho and Ten Hag had made up by now, you wouldn't get stories like this coming out. You wouldn't have Sancho's statement pinned to his bio. It's very obvious the club is a mess and that Ten Hag and Sancho have not made up. But Ten Hag and Sancho need to have their meeting tomorrow. They haven't met since Sancho put the statement out. Ten Hag and Sancho need to have their meeting tomorrow, and they need to make up. I don't like that United have just gone, yeah, you know what, let's just sell Sancho for 50 million. This creates, for me, more negativity. This says to me, well, Sancho and Ten Hag still haven't made up because the statement is pinned to his bio. Things are still bad at United. Things are still so bad at United that we're willing to get rid of Jadon Sancho, a player that we're going to need, a player that I'm really hoping makes up with Ten Hag. But the fact that Man United and Ten Hag reportedly approved a 50 million sale of Sancho, which the Saudis won't pay because apparently Saudis can't afford 50 million, is worrying me. The fact that it's been approved, the fact that Ten Hag and those at United would approve this without speaking to Sancho, without making up with Sancho, worries me about how negative things are and how bad things are run inside the club. I do find this bit of the story particularly concerning, in all honesty, to be honest, as well. Adam says Antony and Sancho can go for me, both mid-level players. The thing is, I think Antony and Sancho are kind of in the same boat here. There's no doubt in my mind that Sancho has a higher ceiling than Antony, and Sancho could be a better player than Antony. But Sancho and Antony are both big money signings for Man United, both young wingers that for me have not been super impressive. They've been inconsistent. They've not been super impressive at the time at United, and they've been underwhelming. They've had chances, but they've been underwhelming. And I think we're in a situation now where if something did happen to Sancho and Antony and we had to play the rest of the season without them, yes, I think we would need them in the sense of for depth. And I think that Pelistri is so young, there's a lot of pressure on him. Amad Diallo I see is more of an inside winger than an outside winger, and Ten Hag likes a wide winger. I don't want to see Bruno on the right. I don't want to see Mason Mount on the right. I could deal with Mason Mount being on the right if it meant that Bruno obviously was in the middle, but I don't really want to see Mason Mount on the right, in all honesty. But for me, you know, I could go through the season with Pelistri and Amad on the right. I could. I think, you know, Arteta got rid of the Pepes, the Lacazettes, the Aubameyangs, and Smith Rowe, Saka and Martinelli came through, and I think that's exciting. But I just think there's still a need for Sancho and Antony. I know they've been inconsistent. I know the youth's exciting, but it's a lot of pressure to put on Pelistri and Amad Diallo. You know, there is a player in Antony, I believe, and there is a player in Sancho, I believe, but these messes at United 100% need to be sorted out. 100%. Guys, please do smash that like button. Of course, subscribe down below to the channel if you're new. If you do want to stay up to date with all the latest Manchester United news, transfer news and more, do subscribe. Someone said we should take the pressure off Pelistri, but he needs more game time. I agree. Antony does a lot than Sancho. That's why Erik ten Hag picks him. Yeah, this is why Erik ten Hag picks Antony over Sancho. Sancho, no doubt in my mind, has a higher ceiling than Antony. Sancho, no doubt in my mind, is probably naturally a better player than Antony. But this is why Antony's picked, because for Ten Hag's system, Antony does the job better. Let's not act like last season Sancho was better than Antony. If Sancho was in form and if Sancho was at his best, he's better than Antony. But Sancho's had 2 years at United, mass amounts of games, and he's only had 4 or 5 top performances. Let's be honest. Sancho and Antony are like the same for me, okay? They are inconsistent. They both have decent games. They both have bad games, but they're probably just as good as each other when they play. Sancho is naturally a better player than Antony, and Antony started the season particularly poor, and Sancho had a good pre-season. So off that, you go, well, let's give Sancho a run-in. But the difference between Sancho and Antony, and this is what Antony has that Sancho doesn't, is Antony works harder for the team. Antony tracks back. Antony runs more. You know, Sancho's always seems to be off at fitness level. Sancho reportedly can't keep up to you know, the pace, the intensity. He's not as fit. He has fitness issues. That's where Ten Hag's frustrated with Sancho. Ten Hag gave Sancho a 3-month break because he wasn't physically or mentally there. He wasn't fit enough. That's where Antony gets in over Sancho, because Antony can run more. Antony can track back. Antony follows Ten Hag's instructions. Antony's not better than Sancho, but Sancho's not been good enough at United to make a claim that he should be starting over Antony week in, week out. Sancho's only claim is Antony's been crap. I had a good pre-season. Give me a shout. It's not that Sancho's come to United and he scored 30 goals like Rashford. Rashford's cemented his place because he scored 30 goals. Do you know what I mean? I like Sancho and I like Antony. I think, you know, I actually do like both of those players. And I think there's definitely potential there if they can find consistency and be unlocked. But Antony does play over Sancho for the pure reason that Antony tracks back. Antony does the defensive bit. If Antony has a bad game, at least he still puts in a shift defensively. If Sancho has a bad game, you're thinking, oh my God, he's not tracking his man. So the thing is, like, Sancho might think he deserves game time over Antony, but actually, if you look at the last year or so at United, they've both been inconsistent. They've both been at the same level. So while I think Sancho is naturally better, Antony does more of what Ten Hag asks. So that is what I think Antony specifically has over Jadon Sancho as well. Sancho is fit, just not high press fit. Yeah, and I think that's what costs him as well. This club should have supported Erik ten Hag when he wanted CIRCUS prior to Antony, because trust me, CIRCUS was just depressed at Chelsea and didn't fit the defensive system. But Erik ten Hag will play for sure. I would have liked CIRCUS 2 years ago, but I think CIRCUS is just finished now due to lack of game time, a bit like Donny van der Beek. as well. But I think 2 years ago I would have taken CIRCUS. I think when CIRCUS first went to Chelsea, I would have taken him. But CIRCUS is a bit like Donny. He's come from Ajax and he goes to this club and he just doesn't fit in. And I have to say, the amount of Ajax players that go to a big club and they're just not utilised right or correctly as well. Just going through the live chat as well, I think that the squad divide is overblown by the media. Erik ten Hag signed a good number of players already, many who worked with him previously, and that's surely on his side. Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I think the media are making the most of this Sancho ten Hag fallout. It's the international break thing. You know, this is, I tell you right now, the September international break is always the deadest in terms of news, in terms of media. You know, in the media, if you work for the Daily Mail, if you work for the Sun, what you make money off is essentially clicks off ads. So if you're a reporter and we're in the international break and there's not much to talk about surrounding United, other than Sancho put out this statement and Antony's court case. If you're in the media, you start going, you know what, I'm going to write a story on Jadon Sancho, and I'm going to write that Jadon Sancho's fallen out with this teammate and that teammate. And I think, you know, a lot of the negativity out there being a big divide in the dressing room and players turning on ten Hag and all these stories coming out on Sancho, I think, to be honest, it's just being overblown by the media. It's quiet. They've got this is the only thing that seems to be happening in the football news right now. And then they're just making the most out of it. Because let's be honest, none of these stories about Sancho's character and none of these stories about Sancho's attitude came out before last week. It's a character attack on Sancho now. You know, I was critical of Sancho. I said he shouldn't have put out that statement. And if he's not been training hard, then he needs to shut up and train harder and do what Wan-Bissaka did and get on with it. You shouldn't be putting statements out. It's unprofessional. You shouldn't be calling out the manager publicly. It's unprofessional. I support ten Hag on that. But what I don't support is the media attack on Sancho. We can criticise him if he's not training hard enough. We can criticise that he hasn't been good for 3 years at United. But you can't put out reports that, oh, Sancho's causing this big dressing room divide and Sancho's the reason players aren't happy. And there was a report that came out essentially saying that at England, there was a report that came out at the England camp, Southgate dropped Sancho because Sancho was negative. It's like, well, why have none of these reports come out until today? Why have none of these reports that Sancho really impacted the mood of the England camp come out before today? Because I just think a lot of it is exaggerated by the media. I think that Sancho's put out a statement, there's no news, so they make up stories that Sancho caused a big problem in the England camp. Sancho was called out for not training hard enough at England. Sancho was called out for not training hard enough by ten Hag the other day. Sancho was called out for being late for training and not being fit enough for Dortmund. That is Sancho. He sometimes is late for training. He sometimes isn't fit and he sometimes doesn't work hard enough in training. But I don't believe the stories that Sancho's causing some big divide and Sancho's a negative character and the players don't like Sancho. I think that is a media attack. I think that is a media attack on Sancho for clicks, for views. I don't know what else, but I think it's the media running out of ideas, exaggerating this whole situation as well. And I just look, I'm fed up of all the negativity as well. You know, because what I will say about Sancho, and what I will say is, and again, I support ten Hag over Sancho. If Sancho is being bad, and if Sancho is being as bad as the media make out, then sure, drop Sancho if he's going to cause ten Hag problems. But you know, I believe that Sancho's just frustrated. He put the statement out, and you know, there's a bit of a fallout of him and ten Hag, and that he's not worked hard enough. I don't believe that Sancho is done this, and this that's coming out. Like I don't believe it in the slightest. But it's just annoying because it just creates all this negativity around United. And what I wanted to mention was Harry Maguire got arrested in Greece. And the next thing you know, Man United are putting out all these statements to protect Harry Maguire and letting him do an interview. You know, Jadon Sancho puts out a statement and all of a sudden Man United are letting all these stuff come out on Sancho, things he did on pre-season last year, relevant stories. And yeah, for me, I just don't like the negativity around the club at the moment. I think it's so negative, and I think, you know, the Glazers are feeding off it in the sense of, you know, everyone's going to turn on Sancho, everyone's going to turn on Antony, everyone's blah blah blah. I think we just need to stay united and turn on the Glazers as well. 350k a week and not fit enough should be fined. Look, for me, ten Hag, I think, has been very nice to Sancho. I don't think he should have called him out publicly, but then what do you expect ten Hag to do? Lie. Sancho's on 350k a week, and ten Hag let him have 3 months off football to get his head in the right space. Ten Hag has been patient with him. I think ten Hag cares about Sancho, and I think ten Hag dropped Sancho from the squad because he didn't train hard enough, and ten Hag thought it was the kick up the arse Sancho needed and was doing it for Sancho's own good. And I think Sancho responded badly on social media, a bit childish. There's no doubt in my mind that's what I believe, but I think the media are trying to make out that Sancho is this big problem maker that's going to cause a big divide in the dressing room. And it's like, well, when Harry Maguire got in trouble, no one made out that he was causing a divide in the dressing room, you know, and that Harry Maguire was in trouble. So it is just a little bit annoying in that sense that I think there's an attack going on as well. But look, I think that we should sell Sancho in January to a club that he wants to go to. From what I know about Sancho, I've heard on Sancho, he's not interested in going to Saudi Arabia. There's reports that he might go to Saudi Arabia, but Sancho on his side is not interested. I know that Chris Wheeler's saying that Sancho's open to moving to Saudi Arabia, but I've heard very different things. And I really trust the person who's told me this stuff, that Sancho wouldn't go to Saudi Arabia. And David Ornstein did confirm as well that the move's unlikely to happen. So though Man United are open to selling Sancho and letting him go to Saudi Arabia, it seems, and as Ornstein said here, that Sancho isn't joining Saudi Pro League before the transfer deadline tonight. He's admired, but the move's not happening. And the move's not happening because Sancho's not interested in the move happening, and the Saudis don't want to pay 50 million for Sancho. That's why the move isn't happening as well. Thank you very much for the super chat. Fergie got rid of Roy, Stam, Rude and Bex. Letting Sancho stay would be bad precedents for other players that disrespect the manager. Get rid, says 21st Century Gaming. And look, if Sancho and Ten Hag don't make up, if Sancho doesn't take the statement out and things are toxic, then 100% get rid of Sancho. And if an offer does come in from in January, then potentially that's what United need to do. Fabrizio Romano confirmed it's not happening as well. Yeah, look, Sancho isn't going to Saudi Arabia. Man United are open to selling him for 50 million. United have agreed to sell him for 50 million, but the Saudis won't pay that, and Sancho doesn't want to go as well. The Jadon Sancho situation wasn't handled well by all involved. ERIK Ten Hag didn't need to go public initially, and Jadon Sancho's reaction wasn't right either. Was enough drama around the club already, exactly. For Sancho to react after a loss didn't help, but also Ten Hag shouldn't have called out Sancho, but all Ten Hag said is he didn't hit my levels in training. Ten Hag's got very high standards, and Ten Hag said he's just not in the squad because I've got high standards, and I believe he didn't hit those standards in training. Sancho's saying, well, I do believe it. Sancho's coming out saying, oh, I did hit those standards in training. I believe I did hit those standards in training. Sancho believes he hit the right standards in training, but Ten Hag is saying that Sancho didn't hit the standards in training. And that's the toxicity around the situation because, you know, for me, if Sancho believes he hit the levels in training, but Ten Hag said he hasn't, I get Sancho's annoyed, but he just needs to sit there, be quiet, do what Wan-Bissaka did and get back into the squad. And the whole situation's been handled badly by everyone, and the media are now using it to make up stories. The media is now using this whole Sancho situation to make up stories to attack Sancho for clicks, and that's the worst thing. And United have not handled it well at all. But look, I'm at the point now where I would back the manager, and if Sancho is causing problems, I would get rid of him in January, and I'd bring in a player in. But the difficult reason is, and Steve said here in January transfer window, United need to bring in some good players and sell some of the deadwood and players you don't want to be there. And Steve's absolutely right with his chat here. What Man United need to do come January is they need to go, okay, Sancho's causing Ten Hag problems, we'll sell him. But like Ronaldo caused Ten Hag problems, we replaced him with Weghorst. The reason Sancho was at United is because Ten Hag was open to selling Sancho, but he was told he wouldn't get a replacement. Ten Hag knew that if he sold Sancho, he'd get the Wout Weghorst version of Sancho. We sell Ronaldo, we get Wout Weghorst. We sell Sancho, we probably get Brooks on loan from Bournemouth. Do you know what I mean? That's who Man United would get to replace Sancho. They'd do a loan deal for Brooks from Bournemouth. That's what they would do. So Ten Hag was like, well, I'm not going to sell Sancho because I'm going to get Brooks on loan from Bournemouth instead of someone like Kvaratskhelia or Leao or the PSV winger that's just gone and got a move that Ten Hag wanted. So Ten Hag was like, okay, well, I'm not going to sell Sancho because the board isn't going to give me who I want. But what the board need to do is they need to go, if Sancho's unhappy, and it seems that United and Ten Hag are open to selling Sancho, then in January we need to let Sancho go, but actually bring in a somewhat decent replacement. Unfortunately, Man United won't do that. We also need to bring in another centre-back in January. Unfortunately, we won't do that. If the Glazers are gone, and I believe the Glazers should be gone by then, potentially there's ability for a January move and Sancho to be out, but it all depends on who the ownership is as well. United's become Statement FC, another statement on Antony. I mean, we are Statement FC at the moment as well. And when you say Statement FC, it's not like, oh, they're making a statement, they're so good. No, we're Statement FC because we've literally put out more statements on player debacles than we have wins this season. It's absolutely depressing. More statements than wins. I don't know what's going on at Manchester United, but Statement FC as well. Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. Guys, this isn't good. This isn't good. This isn't good. I think Antony's done. Breaking news. Breaking news has just come out on Antony. Let me get this up on the screen for you guys. Oh, yeah, I think Antony's done. There's going to be a video on Antony coming out, apparently. Let me get this up for you. Breaking, a third woman has now showed up accusing Antony of physical assault. Record TV will air an interview with Ingrid Lana on Sunday evening. Antony is finished. I think Antony's finished. This club. I mean, this is serious. And if Antony has done what he's been accused of, then 100% he needs to be kicked out. You can't beat up women, especially 3 women. You know, you could say once is a mistake. It isn't a mistake. You shouldn't do it. But there's going to be a TV interview of women accusing Antony of all sorts of things. This club. Do we ever get a break? Oh, you know what? We're gonna. So we put 3 statements out. It's going to be 4 statements. This isn't looking good. Shall I read the full story? I'm going to read the full story quickly. See what else is coming up. This isn't looking good. So basically saying a third woman has now accused Antony of things. So Antony's girlfriend Gabriella has accused him of things. This girl 2 years ago in 2022 accused Antony of things before he joined Man United, and now a third woman is accusing Antony of things, and she's going on TV on Sunday. There's going to be an interview on Sunday about Antony, which will be in Brazilian, so that will be translated. But essentially, what is being suggested here is that there could be videos and footage to come out to show what Antony has allegedly done. Now, what finished Greenwood off was the footage. If that voice note on Greenwood never came out, Greenwood would be playing for Man United right now. What finished Greenwood off is the footage. It looks like this could be happening with Antony now. This looks like this could be like this is why Ten Hag and Sancho need to make up. About to say this is why Ten Hag and Sancho need to make out. Well, I don't think they want to make out, but I don't think this is looking good. Antony needs to go. If 3 people are crying wolf, there's a big chance there's something there. This is not good at all. Yeah. Sometimes if it's one person and it's a he said, she said things, you can take a pinch of salt. When the Antony news first came out a month ago and it was just this one girl accusing him, he said, she said situation, I was like, well, this isn't good, but let's take this with a pinch of salt. It's just a he said, she said situation happening in Brazil. There's now 3 women accusing Antony. Now 3, you know, I know that some people on here are saying that women are all awful and women all lie. But for 3 women to come out and lie, don't think that's the case. I mean, it could be the case, but when it's 3 now, this isn't looking good for Antony one bit, not one bit. You know, there's photos, there's evidence, there's chats, there's enough evidence for the Brazilian authorities to be investigating this for a while. Like for me, this could be the end of Antony. Like it's not getting any better right now as well. We're going to probably put out another statement. Ronaldo had a similar case. Ronaldo's case went quiet. Is Antony still in Brazil? I don't know. For me, this isn't looking good. The thing about United and what United's statement was, and what Romano said on Man United in regards to the Antony situation, is essentially Fabrizio Romano said that Man United are going to wait till they can get more information on Antony before making a decision. Man United essentially are waiting to see if the Antony situation blows down, do what Arsenal did with Thomas Partey, continue playing Antony, or Man United are waiting to see if the Antony situation heats up. Well, the Antony situation seems to be heating up as well. You know, for me, you know, we get the Greenwood situation sorted. Greenwood's in Getafe, good for him. Blah-de-blah, blah-de-blah. That situation's sort of sorted and resolved. Soon as the Greenwood situation sorted, Antony's like, you know, people said I wouldn't live up to being Greenwood's replacement. Probably. We just don't need this at United as well. We don't need this at United as well. But I think if it's 3 women, this is when it's getting serious as well. This isn't looking good for him as well. This isn't looking good for him. Some people are saying all women lie. They're just trying to ruin men for their money. Some do, and that's the horrible situation. Is whenever a person is accused of something because of Amber Heard, because of situations, a lot of the time the victim isn't believed because there's a small percentage of women out there that do lie for money or for ulterior motives. You know, and it's disgusting that people lie about these kind of things. You know, but it is a small sample size of people that lie. But the problem is because of that small sample size, when stories come out, you don't always know to believe. But if it's 3 different women coming out accusing him of the same thing with photo videos, and there's enough information for the Brazilian authorities to be investigating this for a while. It doesn't take a genius. It doesn't take a genius to tell you that this isn't looking good on Antony's side, and things aren't looking good for Antony. I think Man United are in a situation where, I'm not saying that Antony's guilty. I wouldn't say something like that, but it looking more and more like that. This Antony situation is serious, and it's making him look more and more guilty, and him looking not as good. But Man United might be in a situation where they're going to have to suspend him, because for 3 women to come out and for there to be a TV interview on this, 3 women to come out and accuse him of the same thing, that is, for me, that is not good. For me, I don't like the look of that as well. I mean, footballers have dodgy past, behavioural problems, and poor fitness. Do we do any proper checks before signing players? I know as well. It's just like, I'm not interested in jumping on this as well, but I don't know what the interview's going to say. It's going to be in Brazilian as well. 20 Ollie Legend says, I'm not fussed about Antony. If he's done, so be it. I expect it to be finished anyway. And this is the thing. Man United need to do the right thing. Man United probably need to suspend him if it's going to heat up. But it's just another day at United, another day of negativity as well. 3 different women as well. For me, this is worrying as well. Time to step up, Pelistri. Sancho needs to make up with Ten Hag, because I think, what I'm hearing on Antony, I think he needs to go. Obviously, hopefully there'll be a proper investigation by Man United to get all the facts. But from what I'm hearing on Antony, I think it's the end for him. Sancho needs to step up, and Pelistri could have a chance. And as Adam said here, L after L after L, the Glazers have to go. Yeah, absolutely as well. And one sec. Any professional, if a serious allegation is made, the person is suspended with pay pending investigation, whether cop, teacher, journalist, or footballer, to protect the reputation of the institution. And Paul was right. I think United are going to have to suspend them now. I think they are. Adam says we're taking L's everywhere as well. Yeah, there's just so much news coming out, so much negativity, and I'm so done with it. I just want a nice story to come out, and I'm just waiting for a story to come out to say this player's injured or that player's injured. Do you know what I mean? I'm waiting for Højlund or Amrabat to get injured on the bloody international break as well. Oh no! Oh! Yeah, joking. There's a bit more insight on the Antony situation as well. It's going more like it's turning more into the Greenwood situation. I mean, this isn't nice. So if you don't want to hear this, click off. If it's a bit sensitive, there we go. She just said here. It's just said. Ingrid Lana, a 33-year-old banker, accuses Antony of assault. He tried to have sex with me and I didn't want it. He pushed me against the wall and he hit my head. So I don't think this Antony situation is going away anytime soon, in all honesty. I don't think it is. I think that this is going to get worse and worse. I think the fact that there's going to be an interview on this on Sunday, I think it's going to get worse and worse. Man United have tried to keep quiet, putting out nothing statements. Man United trying to ignore this and don't want to comment at this. But he's a Man United player. He plays for the biggest club in the world. If this sort of stuff happens to, a player at RC Lens, no one's going to talk about it. No one cares about RC Lens players. No offence, RC Lens. But when something happens and it's a Man United player, we are the biggest club in the world. We are a massive team. This isn't going to go away. He's a Man United player. Everyone's going to be talking about this. And Man United are choosing to ignore the situation. But the fact is, since Man United's statements come out, 2 more stories have come out. 2 more women have come forward. This isn't looking good for him one bit. Not one bit. And I think Man United, are under pressure to do something and they've kind of been ignoring it. But I think, at the way things are going, it's looking worse and worse for Antony. And Man United are probably under more and more pressure to suspend him now as well. Man United, biggest club in the world, and stuff like this keeps happening as well. And the statement won't... apparently the accusations against Antony are supposed to be really bad too. Yeah, I mean, we don't know all the information. We don't know 100% what's going on, but every single day it seems to get worse. It started about 2 months ago, and I said, oh, it's a nothing story. Like, when this situation started 2 months ago, I was like, guys, oh, it's probably just a nothing story. Like, let's take it with a pinch of salt. It's a he said, she said story coming out of Brazil. Like, when the story first came out, I literally said to you guys, I think this is a nothing story. He said, she said kind of situation coming out of Brazil. But then there was a bit more that came out a couple of days ago. Then there was the photos that came out. Now there's another woman coming forward. Now there's another woman coming forward. It seems that every single day, more and more and more seems to be unraveling with the story. And it's just looking worse and worse and worse now. And, you know, if there's an interview on Sunday, there's going to be even more coming out. It's not that this is the worst. I feel like these next few days, it's just going to explode as well. A third woman coming out. And this one is not just claiming abuse. She's claiming a sexual assault. So, you know what? It does not look good. I will keep you updated on the situation. Absolutely. It's not a situation that I want to talk about, but it's a situation that I don't think is going to go quiet or go away. In all honesty, it seems to get worse and worse as well. I bet Sancho's kicking himself, opening his mouth. Yes, Sancho might be having his chance. I don't think Antony's going to come back. I don't know. United have refused to comment on whether Antony will come back for Brighton, but if there's someone going on TV to call out Antony on Sunday, if there's interviews going to be aired by 3 different women, you know, if there's photos being leaked, messages being leaked, and remember this, the police report, and this is the police report from Brazil, so this isn't a lie. The police report from Brazil claimed that they had videos of Antony. They had witnesses saying that Antony had done this and that. You know, in Brazil, they said that they got witnesses to say Antony did this and that, videos, you know, and all of this. Antony says he's innocent. He's got stuff to prove his innocence. And hopefully that is the case, that he is innocent, because I don't want him to have hit 3 women. But this situation doesn't look like it's going to go away. More and more seems to be coming out. Photos, women coming forward, TV interviews. I don't think he's going to be playing. I don't think he's going to be playing versus Brighton at the way this continues. Because, you know, Antony claims he's got proof he didn't do it. Well, he might need to put that proof out. He might need to put that proof out if he's, because I tell you this now, it's really just going downhill every single day, isn't it, as well? But look, we'll see what happens with that. But it's such a messy start as well. I think Lee puts a good chat in here. I don't think we've ever had such a messy start to the season ever. If it's true, it's only important that the victims get justice, and you're spot on. I think that's the most mature comment from Lee. If this is true, it's important that the victims get justice. It's important that Antony is dropped and he doesn't play. But this start to the season has been incredibly, incredibly messy and not good at all. It doesn't look good, but can't keep convicting in the court of public opinions. Other clubs let it play out, so should we. And you know what? As bad as this is, Alex is right. You know, why does it only apply to United? You know, it shouldn't. Every club should suspend a player and treat players the same, and there should be some rules about when these kind of things happen. But if, you know, an Arsenal player gets accused of things, they can brush it under the cover and get away with it. But when it's a Man United player, all of a sudden, you know, we have to do something. And that's just because United's the most spoken about team in the world by the media, that, you know, they won't let things go as well. But being suspended by the team is not convicted by the court of public opinion as well, says Paul. But yeah, someone said police stream coming as well. Nick, thanks for the super chat. I'm not saying that Antony is guilty, but 3 women have now made allegations. Surely at this point he should be suspended until pending the outcome. And I agree. I'm not saying he's guilty. Everyone has the right to a fair trial. We don't know all the information. But when it's 3 women, when loads of stuff are coming out like this, and now he's being accused of sexual assault, it's not looking good. I'm not saying that he's guilty, but it's not looking good. I think we're at a point where actually, you know, the most important thing is if he is guilty, the woman get justice. But I think Man United really need to act like a proper club and do some kind of investigation with this now. You know, they can't sit with their nothing statement. I mean, we are a nothing club. We've got clown owners that put out nothing statements. You know, the only good to come out of everything going on at United, because we're a complete and utter mess at the moment. The only thing good to come out of all of these stories is it's so bad that there's nothing for the Glazers to stay for. I feel like everything at this club is so bad, there's nothing for the Glazers to stay for as well. Sorry. The sad thing is United is one of the biggest football brands in the world. Everything is different at United because of that, compared to clubs like Arsenal, who is small status. And the Arsenal a big club, but you're true. If you play for Arsenal, you don't have the pressure of playing for United as well. You know, you don't have, you know, it's just different at the moment as well. It's just like, if you're a United player and you do something, it doesn't go away. Like Thomas Partey's been accused of similar things. There was photos and text evidence of the Thomas Partey situation and what he'd done and him confessing to it. and all of that. But, you know, Arsenal can make that go away because he's an Arsenal player. If you're a Man United player, this stuff just doesn't go away. We're the biggest club in the world. The Glazers should be ashamed of themselves 100% as well. We've got this crap going on week in, week out at the club. You know, the club is a mess. We've got crap like this going on every week as well. It's just ridiculous at the moment as well. It's just, you know what? All I care about now is I don't care about anything to do with United other than just getting new owners. I just want Qatar. I just want Sheikh Yassim to be the next owner of United. That is all I want at the moment, because I am fed up of everything. I'm absolutely fed up with this club. I'm absolutely fed up with players. I'm fed up with the negativity. I'm fed up with the board. But most importantly, I'm absolutely fed up with these owners, the way that they neglect this club, the way that they don't treat our beautiful club properly, the way they've let these messes happen, the way that when a situation that's serious, like the Antony situation, the Sancho situation, these serious situations, they ignore. All I want right now is to not be spending my live streams talking about Antony, to not be spending my live streams talking about Sancho, to not be spending my live streams talking about a Man United player's done this, a Man United player's fallen out with this. I want to be talking about Qatar. I want to be talking about Qatar's plans for United. I want to be talking about something that doesn't involve the Glazers, but I can't, because while I think the Glazers will go and that we will eventually get Qatari owners in, and I think that things will pick up, we've still got the parasites here dragging on this takeover, dragging on this situation for months and months and months, and mismanaging this club and running this club badly and leaving Ten Hag out to dry. And we look to be having our messiest start to the season. Antony has just come out and denied these new allegations, guys. Two more women have come forward accusing Antony of things, but he's denied the allegations. And more negative news. We don't get a break. Fabrizio Romano's put out some news. We can't get a break on this channel. I feel like, you know, we just got more stories and more allegations on Antony. You know, now we've got Fabrizio Romano saying, oh, the Sancho situation is very tense as well. You know, the Sancho situation. I mean, you can't get a break. Just come out now. The situation between Ten Hag and Sancho is very tense. The player will try and resolve things in the next few days with direct contact between the player, manager, and coaching staff. So we got told today by Romano, who's Romano, so you can believe him, Ten Hag and Sancho situation tense. You know, I thought we hit rock bottom a few days ago. I thought that losing to Arsenal, the Sancho statement and the Antony allegations, I thought that was rock bottom. No. There's more Antony allegations. Sancho and Ten Hag still haven't made up. You just think there's no positivity at this club at the moment. There's just nothing there. It's just, I can't even be bothered as well. Pre-season was optimistic and we're halfway through September and it's all such shambles and a mess. Glazers out. Absolutely agree. These owners need to go. These owners are shambles. These owners are an embarrassment to the league. We are the biggest club in the world. And we are the biggest mess in the world. Absolutely disgraceful as well. I've got no words left for this club. You know, every single person in this management is a see you next Tuesday up top. Not Ten Hag, I'm talking about the board and the owners. People with the high management of United, the Glazers, CUNTs. They've left Ten Hag hung out to dry. Some of the players are absolute shits. It's just a big mess. It's just a big mess as well because, you know, nothing is nice going on. Just the board and the owners, they need to get out. This club needs hoovering, if that is the word for it. A deep clean, a big hoover. This club needs a black hole to swallow it up, honestly, at this rate as well. It's horrible stuff as well. And how can a simple disagreement not even be worked out anymore? Too many childish egos on the spot. Yeah, Sancho and Ten Hag fall out. They can't even make up. The Antony situation is just disgusting. And just get me the Qataris. Clean out this club. Get me the Qataris. It is a circus. I'm going to end up the live stream here, but I'm probably going to do a video tonight. I'll probably get a video out about 11 p.m. tonight, 10 p.m. tonight. Just waiting for some more information on the Antony situation, everything going on. But before that, I've got a super chat. Thank you very much, Tox, for the super chat. Maybe the more negative story will force the Glazers, or maybe the UK Gov or EPL will make the Glazers sell. Well, that is hopefully the case. The only positive to come out of everything going on at United is the worse it gets, the more negative it gets, the more and more we lose, the worse the situation is, the less leverage the Glazers have to get more money out of Qatar, the less the Glazers have as well. Qatar needed ASAP. We wouldn't be bothered how much a player costs if they needed to be gone. We would just replace. Yeah, that's the thing. We couldn't bring in players Ten Hag wanted because we'd have to sell that amount of players to bring them in, and we couldn't sell those players. You know, we'd just sell Sancho and Antony under Qatar, even if we got 30 million for them, and they bring in 100 million replacement. Under the Glazers, if we sell Sancho and Antony, we get probably Brooks from Bournemouth on loan because we can't afford anyone. It's all a mess as well. But look, 318 likes. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Smash a like, smash a subscribe. See you next time, and bye.